Tomorrow's U.S. presidential election could be swayed by U.S. citizens living outside of the country. There are about 2.8 million U.S. citizens living outside the U.S. who are eligible to vote. With the race as close as it is, both Democrats and Republicans are trying new ways to connect with as many of those voters as possible. Susan Sweeney is president and CEO of the U.S. Vote Foundation and founder of Overseas Vote. She joins us this morning from Munich. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
It's great to have you on. So let's break down some numbers. I mean, the Democratic National Committee estimates that 1.6 million U.S. citizens living abroad are eligible to vote in those ever-important swing states. So what role could these voters play in tomorrow's results?
Well, these voters are always the wild card. If they were really to come out, and in Canada, you have 600,000 of them, Americans living there in Canada. If they were to come out in full force, they could definitely make a very large difference. So that's what people are thinking about. Those of us who are in the working for the cause to enfranchise and help overseas voters become active voters. We saw in 2020, there were a couple states, Arizona and Georgia specifically, where the overseas vote number totaled more than the margin between the two candidates.
Which is so important, especially when we're looking at the polling numbers right now. So, Susan, the DNC, we know, has contributed $300,000 to Democrats outside of the U.S. That is the first time the DNC has done that in an election cycle, I'm told. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi even visited Democrats at the London headquarters. So what effect is that having on the ground?
Well, we definitely do hear about it and see it on the ground here overseas. There's plenty of advertising. There are online webinars and Zoom calls and many activities being held. So it is quite visible to those who notice such things. My question is whether the difficult to reach overseas voters are being touched by these actions. You know, a lot of us are embedded in our host countries. Some overseas voters decided long ago to disengage, but then also there's a whole other class. There are voters, Americans abroad who are temporarily abroad, many of them. They might be aid workers or missionaries or working as teachers or on sabbatical, and maybe they don't realize that when they left the U.S., they actually had their right to vote intact and could easily access voting services while they were overseas.
Let's talk about the Republican side. The Republican National Committee has not provided the same kind of support as the Democrats have. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has alleged without evidence that Democrats, quote, are getting ready to cheat by reaching out to voters living abroad. Republicans have filed lawsuits, in fact, in 3 states to block some overseas votes. So what's going on here?
Indeed, we've been highly involved to fight these actions. Overseas voters are organized. We do have groups, nonpartisan groups, that work together with U.S. advocates to fight these actions and have successfully done so far. I'm going to look at this in a positive way. You know, there is the problem it creates of the idea that your ballot won't be counted and that, you know, there's something funny going on. But there's also the positive side that there's more awareness, and we can build on that. We've been fighting the false misconceptions for 20 years now. And I think we're just going to look at it and take increased awareness and try to move it toward improvements and reforms in the program to avoid this in the future.
Well, Susan Sweeney, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.